So, um, so yeah, I'm already nervous.
Mm.
So we're here talking about uh, the your new course, the C1. What does that stand for?
Consulting 101.
Consulting 101. And I want to spend this time. I want to spend this time just connecting with you about uh, less so much about what the course is about. We can talk about that towards the end, but actually talking about like what it is you're doing in organizations, including uh, how you're actually helping other consultants, helping other people learn these skills
Yeah.
that you're bringing in there, and the impact that it's having. And I don't know how this conversation is going to flow, but I'm glad to be here with you and talking about this.
And that's where your interest goes. That sounds like you. Let's go to the deepest aspects of what's happening. And yeah, the frame is I'm stoked to have you supporting me with C1, and it's fun teaching people how to translate different leadership skills to be able to support organizations in a bunch of different ways, more ways than I even realized were available. Um, and consulting is exploding. There's more and more of a trend of having fewer employees and more consultants, which was news to me, but
Mm.
I was catching that wave. And leadership is what I do, and helping people create results in phenomenal ways while enjoying themselves and each other more. That's my thing. It's just fun to make it specifically about consulting, where it's a bit more concrete. There's a specific application. Let's see if you can bring your leadership skills to companies, to teams, to organizations in different ways.
So and we set this intention before we started recording, but I want to follow my curiosity around what you're doing, and I'm taking a moment to feel into that.
These are those moments where it seems like where you lead from is the subtlety.
Mm.
And so I'm bringing a much more staccato way of like, no, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And you're like, no. I don't want to get too concrete though. Let's make sure we just stay in that emergent.
Yeah, totally.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel the uncomfortable tension. For me it's uncomfortable, and like what I'm noticing as you say that is like I don't want to fuck this up. Two, like I really want to I want to get in there with you. I want to get into I want to get past the sort of awkward stage of setting it up and into like what's important about this work.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what I'll start with. Like my first question for you is like what's so important about this work and what you're doing that would have you
Yeah.
Wanting to train others.
Yeah. I like that. Now, I was not focused on companies. I started consulting because I was coaching CEOs or investors who were burning out or miserable, the classic miserable millionaire. And the more I explored their relationships and their lifestyle design and all that, what kept coming up was stuff at work. So I only got involved facilitating really intense conversations that they'd been avoiding for years, or really getting in that emergent space that you like to go into, to vision what's next, what's really called for, what's being missed in this particular company. I only did that in service of helping the person be less miserable. But then the more I did it, the more I realized, oh, I actually really love this. And I actually started, before I even knew what coaching really was, it definitely didn't realize it was a career path. In the military, my whole focus was on leadership and performance in teams. So in some ways, getting involved in consulting was getting back to my roots.
Yeah, it was like, and I remember you telling stories in the past about the military and about even your childhood, about your facility with groups, with people,
Yeah.
how it seems to just come naturally to you.
Yeah, well, my brother was the one pointing it out. He came and did our train the trainer in Boulder, and he pulled me aside. He's like, "Dude, the spiritual epiphanies and all that is great, but you were doing this shit when we were kids. Like, we were army brats moving every year or two." He's like, "But within a week of us moving into a place, all the kids in the neighborhood were in our carport because I was always creating this safe place for everyone to really be able to play
Yeah.
and feel recognized for their specialty, their unique contribution to the crew." I hadn't even, I was swimming in that water until he was like, "Dude," pointing at it, "non-dual awakenings is all that's great, and this is how you roll."
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to highlight there, and then I want to come back to my question because you said something that sparked me off. But like just, and I noticed this in the training weekend in Boulder, the sort of the kickoff to this program, but in the training weekend, the thing that you were doing, and the thing you were sort of speaking to, but I really had my eye on, was this way in which you're really, like you said, recognizing people for their unique contribution. And for me, that speaks to this greater ability that you have to like really appreciate people. Like you sometimes call it appreciation before integrity.
Yes.
But this thing where you're like, before you're standing for whatever you're standing for, you're bringing this, like, just this radical appreciation, not just acceptance, but actually, like, you seem to be looking for the good in people.
Well, yeah, because if it's integrity and then appreciation, then I would have been like, "Josh, come on, let's pick up the tempo here. People aren't going to even listen to this video because they think we're just meditating together," or
Yeah,
something like.
yeah,
As opposed to appreciation first, which is celebrating that you are guiding us into a more subtle awareness. And then from there, from that subtle awareness, I can also contribute a reminder of the purpose of this video.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I feel so much more enrolled from that place.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think this is going to come up again, when you start talking about what this actually looks like in organizations.
Every day.
But what I want to come back to is just, so I asked you, like, what's so important about this work, and then you didn't exactly answer my question, but you did give me a little. There was this moment where I felt really enticed, where you said, I was just doing this to help these guys be less miserable, and then I realized that I love it.
Yeah.
That you actually love it. So can you talk about, like, what is it about this work that you love so much?
Hmm. Part of one of the things I'm loving is a lot of the same fundamentals of building extraordinary relationships in your personal life, in like, intentional community contexts, in business. A lot of the same universals. But one of the things I'm loving about it is, well, there's two obvious ones. One, as you help a business situation become more happy, basically, where people are lit up to be there, they just seem like they're better people. It's just bringing out our best. So,
Mm.
so there's a ripple effect where I see uh, affecting a lot of people and having them be more of a contribution out in their lives,
Like,
as
the
opposed
culture
to,
itself is being enhanced.
yeah, well, the business culture then has people go out and enhance, yeah, the culture at large. I really think that's happening,
Yeah.
at least in contrast to miserably dragging yourself to work and then just relieved you got out of there, you know, punch card style. So I like that. Um, and then the other thing I'm really enjoying is the metrics, because
Mm.
personal relationships is tough to really track how much people are really applying these things day to day, because you're not there, let alone how much they're really benefiting, because there's no one cookie cutter mold for the way to be. That was the whole point of Authentic World. If it's authentic, it's going to be a custom job based on these unique people in this unique time in their lives.
Yeah.
You know it when you feel it, though. So uh, I I just really enjoyed going to a company where I hear that investors not really happy with the CEO, but really what it is the investors picking up on that the CEO is paranoid and doesn't trust him versus the other investors. Uh, so, well, if you don't like me, then I don't like you either. Like, there's just so many subtle layers of what's actually going on.
Mm.
But what it leads to is this very concrete situation where they're about to raise another round of investments, and it doesn't look good publicly if one of the original investors is out. It's like, well, what do they know that we should know? If they don't trust enough to put more money in, maybe it's a bad investment. So there's just this situation where it's like, okay, here's a formality where we have to meet to talk, but we know he's not going to invest. So let's just try to like whitewash it. And so it's, and I get to come in, get them to say the shit that they don't want to say, or they don't even realize they're not saying.
Mm.
Notice little idiosyncrasies in how they communicate or don't that throw each other off in the moment so that they can appreciate more before trying to get it their way. And next thing I know, they're laughing or in tears or like really dropping into something like, oh, I didn't even realize. You're right. That is kind of a douchebag thing that I do. No one's ever called me on that before. That is not what I'm committed to. And then, $8 million later, it's a very different meeting. I get to come out doing very similar work, but the metrics are clear that there's a very concrete contribution.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a relief. Otherwise, coaching and intimacy for 15 years, it's like I've really been tempted to go back into carpentry or something. I literally went and helped build boats with this dude from Germany that I met naked at Harbin Hot Springs once because I just needed something concrete that you could
Yeah.
know when it was done.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
This is a nice combo of that, where you're bringing that subtle energetics and the emergent intimacy as it unfolds, and there's some, when you're done.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm hearing this on a couple levels. Like, not only there's that, like, you know it when you feel it, like that satisfaction of like, oh yeah, people seem to be happier or getting along better, but it's actually, and that in and of itself is something I've in the past sometimes questioned, like, is this work actually working? Am I just imagining this?
Mhm.
But then actually the whole nother level of like, oh yeah, and in the concrete world, like this is actually helping to produce better results.
Yes. Totally. Because even asking them, is this really helpful? It's so helpful. This is so meaningful to me. I'm like, thank you. I get touched. And there's kind of an inclination that this is a more ideal way to relate or whatever, but is it actually, is there something, if people were spying on you, if it was the Truman Show and we could see that your life at a session, is there a concrete up level? In the companies, when people are like showing up early to work with the people they're working with because they're having so much fun doing it, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's more concrete.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the part that stood out for me the most was when you said like forcing people to talk about the things that they didn't want to talk about, and then noticing the nuances and the idiosyncrasies. Can you say more about like what that looks like?
Well, forcing is a funny word
Yeah.
for it. You're nudging, you're encouraging, I think I said that you're getting them to do that.
Mm.
Forcing is, you could playfully say that actually. And everyone has their own style of doing this, just the way you have your own style of leading any of the relational processes we do. But I do have a ex-military and Missouri boy, grew up. The earliest memories are in some borrowed trailer in some trailer park, and now suddenly I'm with these billionaires. So I'm playing off of the story of this guy who has no business being in this world, but manages to contribute. So I
Mm.
can force somebody to talk about it by being like, all right, this is what you guys paid me for. This is one of those moments, like, this is one of those moments you paid me for. What are you not saying here? So there is a pushiness with playful when I'm appreciating them and enjoying the process. And
Yeah.
in some ways I'm normalizing, right? Because I'm the consultant. So I'm the one who apparently has reference points outside of this little bubble of this company. So if I'm smiling while saying, you guys, you people are not being honest with each other, and I'm smiling, what I'm conveying, if nothing else, is, and that's okay. I see this, this is commonplace in this part of the process, and you work through it and you get to even more camaraderie or better colleagues. So, so yeah, if you're appreciating and welcoming it all as absolutely perfect with
Yeah.
trust that is good, this goes for personal relationships too. If you get the,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot welcome it and have trust that's going somewhere good, that's where it can go really bad. That's where you get help, right? But yeah, in that way, I'm forcing people to speak the elephants in the room, and then, but also just notice, like, well, so I think the reason he keeps asking you the same, I get you're frustrated, they're asking you the same question over and over again. I think the reason they are is because when you answer, it seems like you're doing this, but not this. And so I'm pointing out little things as they're relevant, which then has the other party be like, yes, thank you. That's what it is. Oh, and I didn't realize that that's just like how their family does things. I was taking it the wrong way. And it just, everything starts to get unraveled by celebrating these little moments as
Yeah.
they're.
Yeah. And it sounds like a lot of what you're doing is, so you're speaking just kind of those little details, just the little kind of sometimes it's the obvious things that just don't get named. You're speaking those little details, and sometimes it's the big details, but you're just speaking what you're noticing and creating more shared reality, getting people more on the same page, and doing it from a place of everything's already okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Uh,
Yeah, that's it. And then sometimes having really interesting inquiry, like when you notice a pattern, it's rarely just an arbitrary pattern that gets in the way. There's if you follow that rabbit hole down, uh, I make a habit of being like, okay, so you know that I've got your back no matter what. You know that I appreciate great things about you, even though other people fail to see them, and you know that I'm going to not pull punches with you. And I hope you know that I don't see executives who are so flagrantly self-congratulatory as you seem to be in meetings with your teams. And that's a little awkward usually for anyone to bring that up. And there's something endearing about it, right? Appreciation.
mm,
There's something endearing about how you're not filtering by social etiquette or whatever. And do you realize that when you said this, that there's a pattern of you being very self-congratulatory in front of everyone. It comes off as if you might be insecure or trying to one up someone. It can come off a lot of ways that you don't intend, and then you just breathe, right? And you still feel appreciation. You still let them feel that you're right here. The quality of the connection hasn't changed at all. The content is edgier, but the quality of connection is the same. So they can relax into really looking at it.
yeah. Yeah.
And in that particular scenario, if I remember right, the executive was like, well, interesting. Well, isn't it okay to celebrate the things you're excelling at? I'm like, I love that question. Totally. It's tricky when you're so interested in your perspectives and your excellence, but you didn't ask any questions about, you didn't seem to be interested in anyone else's perspectives. And so then the rabbit hole just goes a little deeper, right? And just keep going deeper. And they were like, oh, that's true. I'm not that curious about their perspectives because I'm kind of the world expert in this at this point. Isn't this kind of what happens when you get really good at something, is you just get less and less interested in someone else's perspective? I'm like, oh, I love that question too. I could imagine that, but I could also imagine the opposite. Some of the people who get masterful are the people who stay curious, who keep learning, who are aware of how much more they could learn. Like, so we get to explore it together, and there's real core shifts happening. Not because I'm going to help you have a core shift, but because we're just so in those little idiosyncratic moments, we just keep following them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suddenly the executive doesn't give lip service to, we hire the smartest people in the world, and then ask them any questions. Like, I like saying how smart you are, but I don't actually treat you like you're very smart because I'm not interested in anything you might think
Yeah. Yeah.
agrees with what I've already concluded. Like, that's an exaggeration only slightly in a lot of these companies, especially under stress. The worst of us can come out. Suddenly that graduates to a supple, sincere, like authentic interest and an opportunity to co-discover with the people you're working with. And that's one of like 30 different themes of cool ways that people graduate and develop.
Mm.
And then the teams just take off.
Yeah. Yeah. The team. I was going to follow one line of curiosity, and then I felt really enrolled in that last line, and then the teams take off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that has me curious and wanting more. And I think I want to name two things as we're going to start to wind down.
Yeah.
One is that, like, I just want to point out for anyone who's watching this. One is that you're talking about what you're doing and some of your experiences, but at the same time, you're already like showing us like some of the principles behind what you're doing and like what you're teaching people how to do. Would you say that's right?
Yeah.
Speaking the moment, bringing your curiosity, like bringing this radical. I call it radical acceptance. It's like everything's okay.
Okay plus. It's like okay plus. For now, especially if it's fucked up and we need to change it, then I'm going to err even more on the side of celebrating it.
Yeah.
As long as it's here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that quote that like the universe is perfect, including my desire to change it.
Ram Dass.
Yeah. So the other thing that's pointing out to me is just kind of, and I'm paying attention to the subtle, as you were pointing out earlier. And I'm like imagining myself watching this or being interested in getting into this work, maybe coming from, so a lot of people watching this are maybe coming from the world of circling or authentic relating, and maybe asking themselves, like, how does what I've been doing in my circling community translate into the world of business? And what you're talking about is helping me get really clear on is it's not really that we're bringing formal practices into the organizational world. Like there may be a place for certain relating games and exercises, but what you're actually bringing in is the essence, what I would think is the essence of circling, which is, bringing that radical acceptance, that acceptance plus of like everything that's here, including my desire to change it, including what's important here. And I'm bringing my curiosity. I'm bringing the importance of like really getting us all on the same page, that weaving shared reality with each other. And there was one other piece is the relationship. Is like I'm facilitating relationship here.
What it feels like to be together right now, moment by moment, actually matters also.
Yeah.
And the ability to zoom out and remind people of context. Remember, this is why you paid me, is to be the guy that you may hate after I say this. And I'm pretty sure you guys are dodging, you zoom out and you remind them of why things are happening. Yeah. All comes together organically and structured wise. I'm always bringing different, some of the exact same games that I've taught people to do in their authentic relating communities. It's just a little tweak and a little more like a better story that paints how it's relevant for a business. And it's almost the exact same activities, practices, daily practices with the people you work with. You stop and you actually drop in together and get curious about not only what they're working on, but how they feel when they think about working on it. Like I teach them some of those core practices so that they're not relying on just a consultant for it, but they're starting to build more conscious culture day to day.
Yeah.
Some of it doesn't translate very well, but a lot of it is shockingly relevant for most organizations.
Yeah, and it seems to me that it's like maybe in my circling community or my circling practice, I'm used to focusing more on the yin, more on like the just being with what's here and welcoming it and embracing it and flowing with it. And this is the same thing, but we're just tweaked a little bit more towards the yang, more towards like the context and the mission and like here's what we're here to accomplish, and it's a little more of that masculine, decisive kind of energy, but it's still the same essence underlying everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that the ways you can do it, the ways you can get involved are, there's more and more cool opportunities for the executives and the leaders, managers that I'm training day to day, they see, I train them, I do like management 101 workshops for companies, but then they see these other things I'm doing. They're like, well, you didn't teach me how to do that. Or I come back after I haven't been there in a week or two, and people are like, well, you weren't here, but so-and-so was quitting, so I pulled the Decker and I got them to actually. So there's a call for them they're wanting to learn how to do what I do.
Yeah.
So that they can bring it themselves. There's still a power of having a neutral party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a third party is crucial sometimes, but a lot of times it's just a skill set I have that if they had, they could have handled in-house. So there's people who are learning it, who are already building companies, working inside of teams. There are consultants who are already consulting in a lot of different ways, who just want to add my secret sauce into what they're already doing.
Yeah.
And then you're mainly reaching the people who are highly skilled intimacy geeks like us, who are ready for a little fire under your ass and some helpful tips on how to start translating this. And when I first reached out to you was after I went to the dentist, and he kept talking to me and wanted to understand what I was doing, but with plastic stuff in my mouth where I barely talk. But I just realized by the end of it, I had a gig. Like, I had a team building gig, because he's like, well, I've never done any of that stuff for my company of 5 hygienists and a couple of receptionists or whatever. For a lot of people, that would be a really fun and actually lucrative extra aspect of their livelihood, to be even in local businesses, even places where you already have a relationship or could be building a relationship with companies you're already interfacing with. There's a few layers of skill set. It's not like hardcore sales training either. Just building that relationship where suddenly you get the ball rolling, and you get more and more accustomed to that. This is what you do. You bring better relationship in a few different ways to companies, and then those people, and they know business owners in the same town, and next thing you know, this is like part of what you do. That's the thing, that's what C1 is about.
Yeah.
Getting the fundamentals and the nudge in the right ways, and the assignments that get you out there where this gets to be a part of your livelihood.
Yeah. So we've painted a lot of these broad strokes and like intention and like what this is all about and what you're doing, and like more on the concrete level, like can you say a little more about, like, and especially from the perspective of the people watching this, the intimacy geeks here, people who have, like, we've tapped into the essence of this work. What is the course actually going to look like, and like what are we going to be learning?
Oh, good point. Great. So stay with us if you're interested in training with me. The 3-month, it's virtual, so we'll be meeting every week in different ways. Some on Zoom like this, some on Maestro Conference. There's an active Facebook group where we'll be checking in and sharing crash and burn and and wins for 3 months starting in early August. It's a few grand for the training. You get $500 off if you sign up here.
And I'll put some information in the comments with the link and the discount code and everything.
And yeah, we'll be having a teaching piece 1 week, and it's still super interactive, right? You'll be shuffled up with other people practicing things, and then getting clear into customizing your assignment for the week that's relevant for what you're working on. Maybe it's the team you're already managing. Maybe it's the manager of the supplement, like, vitamin store, who you've noticed some cool patterns about their staff. You just want to offer that reflection, which starts to build a relationship, because then you can also be like, although if it was even better, I could see this for your company. That's really cool insight. How did you see that? Well, I'm a consultant, but nice job. You'll customize your assignments, and then you make sure you get your teaching piece. The alternate weeks, every other week, is more office hours, where I'll teach a quick thing based on what came up with a company that week, but then jump right into more hot seat style, hearing from as many of you as possible. And then for some of you, you have a business who wants you to come do something, and they're waiting for a proposal. I'll sit there and go over your contract or your proposal. We all will. We'll actually work on it together. We can see it on the Facebook group while we're on audio, and like incubator style. Let's get some stuff done and get it rolling. As long as you're comfortable with it being public with the rest of the students, well, we get to learn from each other. Then yeah, get it going. That's every week. There's one of those happening. And then there's bonus interviews where there's some consultant friends of mine who have specialties I don't have. So I'll be interviewing them, and we'll be learning from some of those guest stars also.
Awesome. I'm learning stuff about the course even as you're talking about it right now, and I'm getting more excited about starting this.
Nice. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. My goal is that by the end of it, that you're already in process where you're going to have, if you get, a lot of consultants are billing about $3,000 a day, but I imagine if you're starting off, even $1,000, 1,500 for a full day would be amazing. And you've paid for your training in 2 gigs,
Mm-hmm.
2 days of something. And then the rest is bonus. So that's my goal, is that you're already on track to be paying for the training and learning and do it. I mean, my most lucrative gig right now is with a company that I literally would do it for free. I would work extra somewhere else to fund myself to go in and do it for free, and they're paying me more than anyone else. It's that much fun, and that I'm learning that much and challenged. I'm also just like, this one is a tough spot. I really want to see if I can help. And
yeah, sounds like you're really in that flow zone of like being challenged just enough.
Yeah, it's so good. So that's what I want for anyone who wants to train with us.
Yeah, and I
too.
I can really sense your regard for what seems like your regard for the people watching this and the people in these authentic relating and circling communities. Like, I can really get the sense that you really want the best for all of us and to see us thrive.
Hugely.
Yeah.
The only reason to do this is, otherwise I would just do more consulting. The only reason to do this is to see, can we actually infuse a whole new layer of purpose into our network of like highly right-brained relational people who are not necessarily focused on structures and finances and all that. Can we actually catch a wave together where there's more money coming in, more contribution, more concrete results? I'm committed to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just upward spiral. More of all the good things.
I hope so.
Yeah. And one last piece of context that seems important is that this training isn't just like, this training is sort of for people from all levels, like people who have never consulted before, to people to have a gig lined up, to people who have been doing this for years, to also, and you'll also be training people. There will also be people in the program who are on the other side, who are already in the business world, but want to learn these relational skills.
Yeah, but you do need to have the basic foundation of at least some in terms of facilitation, but you definitely want to have the foundation down of being able to get to vulnerable places and speak truth, but have context for it. A lot of that stuff, you need to have that down already. Everyone who's in here are already fairly advanced in that.
I'm really looking forward to this.
C1, let's do it. It starts in a couple weeks, so let's get this out there. And once you sign up, we'll get you the info, get you on the Facebook group, and we'll get it started as soon as you're ready.
Yeah, and as I said, all the information is going to be in the description or the comments of the video, including the promo code. And I'm really looking forward to starting with you, Decker, and to getting sort of into the tribe with everyone else, and doing this all together.
Thank you.
Okay.